Bring enough for everybody, Stephen?
All right, we're live.
All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, welcome to the Community Engagement and Communications Committee meeting of October 25th. Welcome, everybody. We can do a quick round of introductions. I'm Jamal Thomas, School Board Trustee here in Greenburgh. And the person I see next to me is Edith Horn.
Hi, I'm Edith Horn. I'm a concerned community member, and I'm also a retired teacher of 40 years from the Tuckahoe Union Free School District.
How about we pass it over to Ms. Lazari?
Hi, I'm Sarah Lazari. I am a concerned community member, as well as a former and future parent.
And Roy?
Roy Fenichel, Greenburgh parent.
Samantha.
Hi, y'all. Samantha Ives, parent at Jackson, parent at Bailey, Highview PTA, and also on carpool duty, so I'll be ducking in and out again tonight. I apologize in advance.
No worries, no worries. Kelly.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelly Ross Johnson, community member. My son is currently at Bailey School.
And I could see how that would have been tricky because we have another Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Sheehan. My daughter's at LFJ.
Jessica.
I am also an LFJ parent.
Stephen.
Hey. Stephen Morton, Vice President of the PTA Council, two boys at Woodland Middle High School, and a public advocate for getting things done instead of a lot of talk.
Love it, love it, love it. Rosetta?
Rosetta Griffith Bullock. Been on the committee for several months. Former principal of Mount Vernon, very proud principal and a community member. Love what I do. Trying to work this video, excuse me.
And to my fellow trustees, Tanya?
Tanya Dragic, trustee.
And Mr. Warner?
David Warner, board trustee and proud parent of Woodlands graduate.
Okay. Well, thank everybody for joining us tonight. We will start by reviewing and adopting the meeting minutes for the 27th of September. And I'm going to pull those up now. Oh, man. I am still unable to share my screen. I thought that. All right, folks. I'm going to read through these. I'm not able to share my screen at the moment. Welcome, Dr. Iverson. Actually, Laser, if I can ask, can I send you the link to the meeting minutes from the past meeting and have you pull those up?
Sure.
They are in the chat right now.
I'm having problems with my video. Okay.
I just requested access. I need access to the document.
I'm going to change the share settings so that anybody who has that link is capable of seeing it.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Laser. Just trying to change these restrictions. Laser, do we have like basically only people can, oh, anyone with link, I got it. There we go. All right, now it should be anybody with the link. Okay, so on the 27th, the attendees were myself, David Warner, Dr. Tanya Dragic, Laser Alert, Edith Horn, Stephen Morton, Roy Finichel, Liz Anastasi, Jessica Moldone, Sarah Lazari, Walter Simon, Samantha Ives, Kelly Sheehan, and Amy Hung. I was elected as the chair of the CEC and Communications Committee. After that, we adopted the meeting minutes and amended them for the both 426 meeting as well as the 524 meeting. We discussed the committee charges based on last year's proposal. It was determined that we need to make recommendations to the board and have those authorized in order to implement community outreach with the scope of the charges. We discussed having the superintendent draft charges for inclusion in the agenda. I will say early that the charges are not currently drafted. That is on me. That's not on the superintendent. I sent those over to her to discuss later than I should have. I have sent her that note, and she and I will be working over the course of the next couple of weeks to make sure that we can get those charges completed yes, so that we can get them completed. We reviewed our fall school opening with the superintendent, Dr. Iverson. The major points were that all the students were back in school. The process went smoothly. The atmosphere was positive. We did have some enrollment in Highview from 221 to 242, so we definitely like that. The challenges that included a bus driver shortage, it was addressed, as well as some of the staff shortages. As well as the implementation of social and emotional learning initiatives to monitor how students are readjusting to full-time in-person instruction. We discussed how often Dr. Iverson meets with principals to review goals, and that was monthly. How we are going to increase the New York State Elementary ELA test percent of students scoring 3+ to above 50%. And then again, we had. Yes, sir.
There's an error. I made the error. How will we increase New York State Elementary ELA test percentages of students scoring 3+ above 50%? In parentheses, I've got this thing that said we made it to 45. We didn't. I double checked the New York State website, and again, we're at 41%, not 45. So we need to correct that.
Okay. Thank you for that, David.
Sure.
How do we promote and enforce monitor mask wearing and staff vaccination? We talked about how all staff must now show proof of vaccination or undergo weekly testing. I understand that testing has started. How testing and vaccination, we talked about the testing and vaccination process. I think we'll go over that quickly again today. Should parent groups continue to advertise and promote parent completion of free and reduced lunch forms, and has that process changed? We have some answers. I'm not sure whether we'll have an answer on that tonight or not, but stakeholder outreach. We will discuss both of these. We talked about stakeholder outreach last meeting, and we have to put some more meat on the bones with that tonight. We also discussed the propositions for December 14th, which we will mention again. Which we'll mention again tonight as well. So, David, is the way that how do I communicate in order to have these notes made? How did you articulate it? Adopted, yes.
So, assuming we want to go with 41 instead of 45, okay. Do I hear a motion to adopt the minutes of the meeting as amended?
So moved.
Second.
And then you say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion has been adopted and that change has been made. Thank you for that, Liza. Moving on to the community charges, as I mentioned, I did not get Dr. Iverson the charges in time for us to have those amended and adopted this evening. Dr. Iverson and I will be working on making sure that happens in preparation for our next meeting. That's my fault, and I do apologize to the in terms of official voting members, this is what, a process I'm looking to get figured out. I know Kelly Sheehan, who is on, you asked me whether you were adopted. David told me what to do in order to find out whether or not you were, and I was not able to figure it out in board docs. I have communicated with Ivy to get the specifics on how I get everybody in there. And so what I would ask is if there's anybody else on today that's not currently a voting member, if you could send myself and or Ivy an email, we'll make sure that you guys are all voting members, everybody who desires to be. In terms of engagement and events since the last meeting, we had a fantastic walk with a bunch of the students from the high school. It was a CODA walk with the Harris Project, and the focus was on co-occurring disorders. One of the things that I would love to make sure we talk about tonight is what other charities are kind of similar to them, and how else we can get students involved with this type of activity. It seemed that the students all had a fantastic time. And I think that this is something that prepares them for showing how to advocate for the things that they believe in the overall community. David shared with me also, and we can talk about this right now as a group. He shared with me all of the various different events that have occurred over the recent years that were used as community engagement, like the Dads and Donuts, the Superintendents Dessert Breakfast or Tea, the Nettie Jackson Extra Mile Award, the Science Extravaganza, the Art Gallery opening at the Town Hall. Now I know we are currently in, COVID is still a challenge, so we're not going to be able to do everything. But I did want to open it up to the floor to find out which one of the things that I mentioned do people want to still focus on? Are there some methods that we can do some of these events virtually, and or are there other events that folks have in mind that they think would be good for us to focus over the course of this year in terms of community engagement? Edith, please.
Yeah, I would like to suggest that in view of what happened with the bond last time around, that there needs to be a focus for seniors.
Okay.
Some way to acknowledge and appreciate the contribution they have made to the community overall. So whether that's a concert in their honor, whether it's the children/students making Valentine cards for everyone, especially those people who live over at the High Point. You need to do something like that to show them, especially if you want them to come out and vote. You just don't say, okay, here's the proposition, now vote, and then they come and everybody's angry. Been there, done that. So you want to be able to say to them, thank you for all you have done in helping support your children and your grandchildren and supporting the school district through your tax dollars. You want to say nice things, so one of the ways you can do that, you can have a luncheon for them, either at their facility because of its COVID. Maybe, I don't know if the High Point has a community center. They may have one, I don't know. But or we could have it over there, something catered, could be something as simple as a bag lunch. Doesn't have to be, fancy dancy. But the idea is to show appreciation to them. And maybe over time, not immediately, but maybe over time, they will come to understand the importance of the schools. And maybe you get more people voting, even though they're seniors, you're getting more people who may be interested in the schools because it's their grandchildren.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I definitely appreciate it. I love that idea. And we'll take it with the administration. Rosetta?
I think that idea is excellent, but I'd like to know, what are the protocols when we meet in person, for instance, this luncheon? Are there set protocols? Everybody wears a mask? What is it? Because whatever we do, which we need to do face to face, what are the protocols? And they should be standard.
I don't, are you asking me?
No, I'm asking are there any? I'm asking Jamal, are there any? What are the protocols? No, I think your idea is great. I just want to know, what do we do when we meet in person? Because face to face is excellent.
So
But
everything,
go ahead.
everything that the school district does currently, the protocols that we follow are certainly everybody in attendance wearing masks. Outside of that, Dr. Iverson, is there anything that you want to add from a protocol perspective?
No, since we can't control for vaccinations, I would recommend wearing masks. Of course, while people eating, they take their masks down, but as much as possible in between. I've been out and seen a lot of that, just putting your mask down and putting it back on, but wearing your mask. And since this will be held somewhere off campus at a facility, they may have some protocols themselves that they have in place that they may want everyone to follow. They may even permit or allow or want everyone to show vaccination cards. It could go that stringent. So I don't know if that's where they will go, but maintaining your distancing and wearing your mask and keeping your hands sanitized, I think those are the givens now that we all do.
So Dr. Iverson, it would depend on the venue also, because it's a great idea that we have it at the art exhibit at Town Hall, so people would wear their masks as well. So it really depends on the venue.
Right.
And I guess a connection about what the district does and the venue. We would have to come together and decide. Is that it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it would definitely depend on the venue.
Okay.
So I would find that first and find out what are their protocols for renting out their venue for people to use their space. And everyone has a list of things they require now. And so I would start with that.
All right, thank you.
David?
If you do music, I would do strings and keyboards but no wind instruments, especially indoors.
That's good to know.
Yeah, it is good. Good point.
Jessica?
Hi, I'm just thinking about the upcoming vote on December 14th, especially because it was scheduled on the same day that the fire districts are by state law required to have their votes always. So thinking about, we need people to fully understand what the proposition that they're voting on, that is not anything that's going to raise their taxes. So we need to, I'm thinking these suggestions are good, but immediately we need engagement with not only parents to make sure they know, but the larger voting community, what is involved and how to get people out to vote and how to work with the school district and the fire districts. So people kind of make an event of going to do one vote and then going to do the other. If you're out, you might as well go out and do both. Right. So how are the two groups working together to communicate and kind of supporting people of, hey, did you go vote for your fire yet? Hey, did you go vote for the school yet? Because often people are so focused on only on the school. So we want to make sure they're getting involved in both. So we have 6 weeks until that. So that's I think on my mind, just how to get the word out about it.
Definitely super important. I want to hear from Sarah and then we'll come to you, David.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's a really important point that Jessica raised. I think that maybe one of the things we do is that just there is someone from the board or just someone from this committee or whoever is maybe at the fire station where the vote's taking place. And I guess I think it's Hartsdale and Fairview, correct? Okay. So we have someone there who can kind of catch people as they're coming in or as they're leaving. Just so there's a face-to-face contact, which I think is great. And then another thing I was thinking that Edith mentioned was looking farther ahead to Valentine's. I think that's an awesome idea and maybe something that we can talk to the heads of our PTA, like Stephen, or maybe the younger kids like Sam and, the LFJ and RJB. that's something we could partner with them on, have the students do it, and then we're sort of organizing where do these Valentines go.
They would go to them, and we did it it's something that we do in our school district all the time. And so we send Valentines, and not Easter cards, but spring cards to the senior citizens. And then we also host a luncheon for them in their honor with a concert. So, and that's been going on ever since I was there, and I was there for 40 years. That's just the tradition. So I'm passing that on as something that, you could do. So it only takes one child. If each child did one card, that class, pack them up and send them over to the High Point, or even mail them. I'm quite sure you have a mailing list, for someone to get a card from a child. I mean, and all it has to say is Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, with the little drawing on it. I love you. That's it.
So
we're not asking for a dissertation. Just something simple.
So Edith, what I hear you saying is and I love it. It's not just specifically Valentine's Day, but making this something that we encourage as a part of the ongoing communication in the district. Dr. Iverson, I'm curious. Who do you think we would best communicate with that on your staff around something like this? Like, would there be somebody who is really kind of in charge of student engagement? Is it something that we could ask of the teachers? Is there anything that pops to your mind? And if not now, we can talk about it later. But is there anything that pops into your mind immediately on the best way to engage with this?
No. Can you give me a moment to think about it? I will talk to Dr. Macaluso and we can see about the best way to do this. I did like hearing about LF Jackson doing cards, the youngsters doing cards for the seniors and getting them out there. So no, I don't have anything in mind just yet, but these are great ideas. I'm just jotting down.
Okay, cool. Go ahead, David.
Okay, so I think my question was for Jessica. Do you know what hours the fire department elections are? They tend to be in the evening, if I remember.
Yeah, I know Hartsdale starts at 3. I think they're usually finish up at 8. But if you give me a minute, I will do my best to confirm that. But I know they don't start until 3.
Okay.
And while Jessica's looking, if there's anybody here who wants to volunteer for, said communication at the fire department, we would love that. Sonia, I'm sorry, Brizetta, I believe you had your hand up next.
All right, I'm a stickler for this. We know that we want our best feet forward. So whoever is in charge of this, can we make sure that anything that goes out from our students is correct? So when you're saying you need to have someone in charge, they need to make sure that the cards go out, they're correctly spelled, and they look beautiful. That's my whole point, because you never know where these cards will end up. And we want to promote that our children are doing well, because they are doing well. So we need someone to check, a fact checker, Am I making myself clear? I'm sorry. Am I making myself clear with that? Because I know we have two schools of thought that some people feel that as long as the writing goes out, it might be misspelled, but that's cute. But we don't know where these cards will end up. So all the spelling should be correct, even for kindergarten as well as first and second graders.
It could be, it could be part of the writer's workshop.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay.
It could be something as simple as that. It could be done. It depends how you do it. You could either do it as part of the writer's workshop. You could do it as an art project from the art teacher, something like that.
Just to be cognizant that it's correct.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Dragic?
These are all really great ideas. And I just wanted to voice, first of all, a concern about the, having sort of a in-person get together with music and food. I think that seniors are a group that is especially worried about COVID, and rightly so, even if they're vaccinated. So I'm not sure that we will get a lot of attendance if we organize an event like this. So that's my first concern. And then secondly, I really like the idea of cards, and maybe we could do a collective card or something, have it like an art project for maybe, I don't know, second or third graders, and actually print those cards and sort of mail them out specifically to our seniors, to sort of inform them of this vote, and get their support. I'm just really concerned that organizing an event will not get us a big turnout, because we are still in COVID, and so I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Go ahead, David.
So it's better that you not have the students give direct messages, vote for this. It's better that you just say happy this, happy that.
I agree.
It's happy Halloween, happy Thanksgiving, happy Valentine's Day, happy New Year. If you bing, 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 over time, just that. If you're worried about COVID, then you can schedule your in-person event for later in the year. And hopefully if we go down from to like a moderate level, the fear will fade as the occurrence of COVID continues to reduce. At least I hope that's what happens. So you could, modify what you do based upon, schedule it based upon circumstances.
My understanding of what, go ahead, Ela.
It could be an outdoor event later in the year. It does. Those are just some.
Yeah.
My point is, my thing I want to get across here is the importance of appreciating seniors. I was very upset with one of my neighbors who made a derogatory comment about the Greenburgh schools. I was like floored. Okay, I couldn't come back at her because I was with other people. Had it just been she and I, boom, but I wasn't. So I said, okay, this is what I can do. I can share things that I know we've done in my school district that have been successful to get and have become tradition. Okay, and maybe this is something that you all could do, that we could do as a community.
Yeah, what I'm hearing separate things, and maybe the question kind of led to that. So one thing that we're going to look diligently into is how we communicate student to seniors, specifically, and maybe that extends to not just seniors. Maybe there's, maybe we do something where ultimately students are communicating to the community writ large, not for anything specific, but saying to the business community, hey, thank you for the jobs that you gave to the other seniors, or things to that effect. And we're also talking about when time. When COVID allows, having in-person events again. And I wanted to see if any of the specific events that we brought up here were things that we wanted to try to look at making space and time for, and or if we wanted to think about making any of those events virtual in some kind of way and still having them. So, that's the Dads and Donuts, the Superintendent's Breakfast or Tea, Nettie Jackson Extra Mile Award, Science Extravaganza, art gallery would be challenging, but maybe not. Maybe maybe not. Show it online somehow. Go ahead, David.
So the thing that lends itself best to that is what we thought of as the Superintendents Tea. That is the superintendent. We'd say, "Hi, this is our superintendent." Our superintendent would pop up and say, "Hi, these are our central office administrators. These are our principals. Tell us what you do and answer questions." That can be done online. That will work pretty well. You won't get the food part, but you can get a lot of the content. Okay, so I think that needs to go forward in some form. Whether you do it once or twice in the year, that should happen. The other thing that probably is pretty much COVID proof is the Nettie Jackson Extra Mile Award. Okay, so you get your people together. You submit nominations. They can come in. Over the lines from community, from staff. You appoint your committee of judges. You come back, you make your announcement, you show up your trophy, and clap and cheer for the person. And you can do that online just as easily as you could do it in person. And that survived COVID. That's the one thing that survived. So Nettie Jackson Extra Mile Award and some form of the principals showing up for a superintendent's tea.
Got it. And so perhaps between now and the next meeting, we can come up with actual dates that we can put up on the calendar, suggest those to the committee, and see if we can get those events locked in and starting to have them actually planned. Now, as it pertains to, I love the idea of Thanksgiving. We won't have time to wait until the next meeting to get this launched. And so I guess that can bring us into something that I can't show it once again. Laser, I'm going to send you something else. If you could just pull it up, that would be awesome. And this is just a list that I'm hoping we can use as a starting point in order to start to decide like what our specific communication strategy is going to be with various different stakeholders.
I just need access again.
I'm giving everybody access right now. Anyone with link? Okay, everybody with the link should be able to pull that up. And so this just has the civic organizations on it. It has, some businesses. I didn't even put the restaurant, stores, police department, I put police and fire, but I didn't put the restaurants or stores. But if on this list, the people who are in this room can start to say, okay, there's some civic associations, folks that are missed. Let's get that added in there. Obviously, there's going to be businesses that are missed. Let's get those added in there. And if we can throw up folks, the names of the people in each of the places. I have that for the Civic Association, but I don't necessarily have those contacts for the various different businesses. So if anybody knows of who those people are, and even right now, we can start to come up with what our messaging will be to the variety of different people who we want to who we want to talk to. And I'm linking that to.
What are you linking it to?
It's really not linked to that. It's I was going to say that this document can be a place where we flesh out the idea around Thanksgiving, and folks can, if after this meeting, I'll write that as a bullet point, and then hopefully folks know how to use kind of the comment section and things like that, and that can be some two-way communication that we have between now and November, if we are in fact able to do some. I don't know, maybe we can't do it that quick. Maybe Thanksgiving is too ambitious, but it sounds like a fantastic idea and a fantastic place to start, being that we're talking about gratitude. Go ahead, Dan.
I missed
realtors, faith-based organizations, and like agencies of the town, right? So the community center is part of the town. The parks is part of the town. Maybe the daycare centers.
And can you add those in, David? Because it's not just from this one's not just going to be for me to put stuff in. It's for all of us to add. So if you can add those in there, we can start the process of figuring out all of the specific ones and who it is that we need to communicate at each one.
Okay.
Where will this be located? I missed that part.
This document?
Yes.
It's right here. Like if you come back to this link that I just sent, and I will send it to everybody who's on the community engagement email.
Okay.
Everybody will have access to the doc.
Good.
So what do we have next? I just also wanted to let everybody know in terms of what else is upcoming for the community, that there's a number of committee meetings scheduled this week. If anybody wants to go to the Safety and Technology Committee, that's going to be 6 p.m. tomorrow. The Governance and Policy Committee meeting is going to be 6 p.m. on Wednesday. And the Finance and Facilities meeting will be 6:30 p.m. on Thursday. And then if you're following the agenda, this is the stakeholder and business community outreach list that I discussed. So everybody, please, have license to add to this document. If there's a better way to represent this in the future, I'm open to suggestions. But I thought this was a good place to start in terms of getting everything on one specific place that we can ultimately move to an Excel or Sheets doc that has dates and who's calling and things to that effect on it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any questions? Okay, cool. Next up, we want to discuss police and community outreach, and that's something that we've talked a little bit internally, and I'm going to ask Dr. Dragic to speak to that.
Okay, so the reason we're having this discussion is because there were several troubling incidents at the high school recently, and they prompted us to sort of pick up a conversation that we actually were having with the previous administration about ways to address behavioral issues in our schools. So just for some historical perspective, I went back and dug up my incident reports, and by one count, in the 2017-2018 year, we had about 200 incidents at the middle high school. And by another count, we had 300 incidents between 2017 and 2019. And these incidents included everything from profanity between students and staff, sexting, physical fighting, cutting class, vandalism, possession of weapons, inappropriate language, and drugs. This is not anything that is special to our schools. All middle schools and high schools deal with this, par for the course with the teenage brain. And just to give you a sense of the different mitigating strategies that were used over the past, there was mediation, counseling, contacting parents and talking to parents, as well as suspensions. So about 2 years ago, when we were again discussing these issues with the previous administration, I actually remember a very insightful comment that Ashley Pineda made during a meeting, which was that we can offer the most wonderful programs and have the best teachers, but if our students don't conduct themselves safely and respectfully towards each other, towards their teachers, the rest of the staff, it will be really very difficult for us to get a lot of learning done in our schools. So I know that there are a lot of things that we could do better. SEL, we could get more security monitors, better ones. We have in the past discussed bringing back the rap room for the kids, which was something from my days, but that I remember very fondly. We can work on getting better parental involvement. So I am not at all discounting these particular strategies tonight. I just wanted to bring up an additional one, which we, as Jamal said briefly, discussed at our last meeting, and we previously also discussed 2 years ago, pre-COVID, before things kind of unraveled. So it was one additional strategy that that we could consider is having an SRO in our buildings, which we actually have had in the past. And this is basically a police officer who is dedicated to the school, who is trained to work with teenagers, build relationships with teenagers, and sort of be there as a bit of an authority figure, and also just someone who I think fundamentally is able to both I hate the word control, but for lack of, I can't think of anything better right now, and also help kids with behaviors. The other option is to actually build a relationship with the police department and have them perhaps assign a couple of officers who will be doing regular walkthroughs through our buildings. So I just want to be perfectly clear that these officers would be walking around, talking to the kids, maybe checking dark corners, building relationships with them. For example, they could have lunch with them regularly. They would not be there to draw their guns, to arrest the kids, to dispense any kind of discipline or justice. So again, they would, these officers would have to be trained properly to deal with adolescents, essentially, which is, as you all know, a very special demographic. So this is a discussion that I wanted to start. And I also want to tell you that many districts around us actually have a police presence. Often, at drop off and pickup times, there's a police car that's just hanging around. I think it's actually a good thing because it enforces careful driving. And we've had this issue recently. We've been talking about this issue at the high school, that we have a turn that's a little tight, that people sometimes take too fast, and having a police car there would maybe give people pause. It's just sort of a good presence to have. It's sort of a benign authority that could be there. And then I also know that schools around us do have regular sort of visits by police officers, again, not to scare the kids, but quite the contrary, to actually build relationships with them. Often they learn a lot of stuff. If they actually are able to become friendly with the kids, they can learn a lot and sometimes actually prevent trouble before it really happens. So in a nutshell, this is kind of the conversation I wanted to start. I would obviously like to hear from everyone else what their thoughts are. I'd like to hear from Dr. Iverson, and then we could, I don't know if we could make a recommendation to the board, or just, continue to sort of explore the possibilities with the police department and then come back to this committee before we make a recommendation. But anyway, this was kind of the general idea of my proposal. That's it. I'm done.
Okay. I don't know, other people have their hands raised. I'll come in. I'll chime in a little bit. Can you hear me?
Jamal, would you like to call on people, or?
Is he frozen? He's
I don't
semi-frozen.
He seems a little frozen, yeah.
I thought Dr. Iverson was going to speak on it.
Yeah, it was Dr. Iverson.
This is my first time hearing it as yours, so I'm too, like you, reflecting on it. It's not unusual for me. I've seen this model in many school systems that I've worked in, where there is an officer present in the building who does exactly what Trustee Drogic described. Is a presence. I don't think they necessarily, with their police officers, they must have their weapons on them, but they're not, as for any reason other than because it's part of what their uniform, but then they at no time are used on the grounds. I've seen the cars there in the morning and then pick up time and the drop off. It does deter behavior. It does deter those who thought about doing something. It is a presence to help secure really the campus and the students. And so it really does not hurt. The negative side of it is the presence. To some degree, it still looks, very Amish, and, where you have armed guards on the campus. And to some, it can be taken the other way, but it's certainly a strategy I've seen before. It doesn't hurt. Police to me have a presence. They at all the games, monitoring the gates with the monitors that we have in place, very involved, very friendly, talking to everyone who enters, knows all the kids, all the parents. I think we have a piece of it already. So it's just probably a matter of expanding that, seeing that there's a cost. I'm sure to have a policeman there in the morning and afternoon may incur some cost there, but it's a beginning conversation. If that's something this committee would like to pursue. I'm not seeing the discipline. I know you described some discipline in prior years. I talk and meet with the principals a lot. I talk to Mrs. Smith, and I can't say at this point, 3 months in, that we've had an exorbitant amount of discipline. What's expected of students is happening. And I think the administration is handling it when it does. We have a code of conduct that they follow. Parents are informed, and students that are, let's see, that, and there's a consequence for that, for those behaviors that warrant one. But as much as possible, we're trying to keep kids in school. And so that counseling piece, we could strengthen. We have guidance counselors, but we don't have SEL counselors, or SROs, in the building, who can serve as that conduit between the administration and the classroom, somewhere the child can go and cool down and have someone who can just give them the 5 minutes. Sometimes that's all kids need, and sort of talk them through and process what's going on, helping them peacefully learn strategies to coexist. SROs are great at that. They are walking halls. They are, again, a presence. All the kids know them, have a respect for them. These are all great strategies that have a potential cost assigned to them, but these are certainly, I agree that these could be things to do if that's the decision this committee would like to go. I have not seen the volume of discipline yet, not at the high school, no more than I would expect anywhere else. There've been a few fights. Kids sometimes don't know the words to peacefully work on coexisting. They're middle schoolers, they're adjusting. A lot of them call themselves even playing. They jump and run. It's just that age. And so a lot of it is the teaching them of this piece, that this is now high school. You're no longer at Bailey. So you can't jump and run like that. So we're not trying to be so punitive right away. A lot of them are just playing. They don't even they know the difference, but their intent is not to try to hurt and do things to other people. We clearly know the difference between a fight and goofing around and playing around. And so that's what the administrators are good at deciphering and applying the most appropriate way to handle that. And an SRO would be someone great who handles something like that, just to give the two people time to process what happened and why, and they go on their way. I think all of these are great. I think you had a good list there, Trustee Dragic. It's just others, what they think and where you would like to go with this.
I'm not sure who had their hand up first because my computer was acting crazy. Do you guys remember what sequence it was?
No.
All right, so I see Stephen first.
Thank you, Jamal. There are two sides to this. Having two boys, I have an 8th grader and I have an 11th grader. There are two sides to looking at the incidents, and over 200 incidents. How many were somebody cursing somebody out? I agree wholeheartedly with Dr. Iverson. That 7th and 8th grade is a weird thing. And also we're coming outside of COVID. And a lot of these kids haven't had the social, they're back together again. It's been a year. And I think, I'm not saying it's overblown, but the aggressiveness from an outsider may look like, oh my God, everything's out of control. If everything was out of control, I have my kids out of there in a heartbeat. Trust me. But what I'm seeing is a lot of people from the outside are looking in and thinking all hell is broke loose. I agree, there are probably some things going on, but you got to be careful just throwing a resource officer in there. Around the country, we've had a lot of incidents where it backfires. So I think we got to have some calm heads, really think about, well, do we want to do this? Also, I'm going to get into a little bit of the critical race here. There's some people get scared because certain races may be a little more louder or aggressive. But when you talk to the kids like I do, and I've been on every PTA council all the way up, and I've been part of what's going on at Woodlands, I think some people, a high five make people go, whoa. But the kids, I see them every single day. And I don't see this, they're all ready for a gang and all that talk. So I think, calm ahead, got to give them a chance. That's it.
Thank you, Stephen.
I don't really think anyone said that. I'm sorry.
That's what
I don't think anyone is talking about gangs or, excessive violence. I think we're just talking about bringing down the level, especially post-COVID, actually sort of helping the kids with essentially self-control, because this is really the problem of the teen brain. It's kind of executive function. It's like Dr. Iverson was saying, sometimes all they need is, 5 minutes with an adult that, that is calm and knowledgeable to help them.
Maybe
move on.
An experience.
Move on. So,
maybe
excuse me?
Instead of getting a police officer, maybe experienced sociologist, therapist, psychotherapist, people who understand the kids at that age, who are not just coming off the battleground, quote unquote. So I think there's other ways we could utilize and bring in some people if that's the case, because I'm sure there are other schools going through the same thing. And bringing in a police officer, it does have its little stigma to it, especially in this day and age. So,
I see Jessica Muldoon.
Hi, I'm going to be putting on my former assistant principal hat at this moment, having been in schools with metal detectors and we had school safety. So I'm going to kind of put that on for a little bit. But I also do want to think about the presentation Jill Post made a few weeks ago. And one thing she made very clear is there is not enough staff at the schools to be doing the evaluations, to be responding to students' needs. And we know when students' academic needs aren't met, we see it in the hallways, we see it in the classrooms. So I really think we have to think of who are the staff within the school. The police are not the people to be patrolling our halls. And I would agree, I would pull my kids out if I saw police officers in the school all the time. My son is the biggest emergency response fan in the world. But they want that relationship. We don't need the presence in the school. So who are the guidance counselors, the social workers, the pupil accounting staff that need to be there? Who are the hall monitors who need to be checking potentially those dark places where kids might sneak off to? Are there cameras to help with those things? Those are the proactive monitoring steps. I'm just thinking the first thing when you started talking that popped into my head, school to prison pipeline. We do not want to be adding ourselves to that list of schools that are starting that relationship. You want to have positive relationships. And I think, Steve, as you said, you don't know what a police officer might be coming in with that they might be responding. Who are kids and how are they helping? I've seen some great SSAs. I had one who worked in my building for years. He had the relationships with the kids. He was from the neighborhood. He was not an armed officer. He was fantastic whenever I had an incident. And I had some who were absolutely awful and escalated incidents there. And you don't know who you're going to get. So I really think we have to think about who's in our building and building capacity. And then we have the Explorers program. You see them at all the community events. Potentially there are more kids who could partner into that program to build those relationships. So you can hear my emotion in my voice right now because this is something that I feel very, very strongly. We do not want police presence in our schools.
So I will say quickly, just because you mentioned the Explorer program, I did have a conversation with Lieutenant Hall about this. He wasn't able to make the meeting tonight, but he will be at future meetings to have a discussion about what the police relationship is with the schools. And so, you know, that you know, the SRO is one idea of many. And I do absolutely believe that there can be a positive impact that's not necessarily an SRO. And I'm not 100% against the SRO, but I do fully understand all of the concerns everybody has expressed and have expressed some of those myself. The next person I see is Brizetta.
Well, I want to thank you because the previous speakers allayed my fears, because those numbers initially made me frightened. And when times that I've been at the schools walking around, I didn't see those incidents. However, I do think that a police presence might be beneficial if the officers are trained, but I'm concerned about the teachers. Do we have professional development where teachers know how to de-escalate so that these incidents don't occur outside of the classroom? And I understand about the academics. You know, I taught 16 years, principal for a number of years. So do we have the training? Do our classroom teachers have the training to try to de-escalate before those students get into the hallways?
Thank you. Thank you. Next, I see Sarah Lazari. Mary, I see you. You'll be up next. Go ahead, Sarah.
So I just wanted to say that I appreciate hearing from the other parents like Steve. You know, I guess in some ways I'm an outsider, right? And I had never heard that there were particular problems within GCSE, within the older grades, any more than would be normal. You know, I do think there is a perception out there about that. But either way, I think if we're getting police involved, we have to tread very carefully. You know, I just don't know what kind of a message that would send to the students, given everything that's been going on in the world for the past, I don't know, 6 years maybe, with police violence. I did speak with last spring with Councilwoman Jackson, for Gina Jackson with the town, because she sort of spearheaded the Greenburgh Against Systemic Racism report, and where they sort of delved deeply into what Greenburgh and everywhere should do to sort of build a better police. And one of the things that she said is that she did want to develop, you know, more of a relationship, and that it was a positive thing to develop a relationship between the police force and the school. I'm unfamiliar with the Explorer program that you guys are talking about, but maybe that's the sort of the start of it. So I think there are programs that we can do that would be beneficial and sort of get all the kids, you know, to see police officers in a good light. And I think that could be helpful for everyone, but to have them sort of in that discipline role makes me very nervous. Thanks.
They would not be in that role. I mean, I think again, I think I was very careful in what I stated. First of all, I didn't, you know, the number of incidents are what they are, right? I didn't make them up. Second of all, I very specifically said that those police officers would not be there to discipline in any way. They would be a presence, and they would be there to build relationships and to basically, you know, sort of just kind of check in and be a figurehead of authority. And also, you know, I think actually would be beneficial to build a positive sort of, you know, or project a positive image. I mean, this is also a chance for them to sort of undo the negative image that they often have. And they would definitely have to be trained for that. I don't think you just throw random officers into something like this. So anyway, that was just my caveat.
Mary, you're on mute.
I said, I'm sorry I interrupted. Please go ahead and call on the other hands that are up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, welcome, Dr. Davidson. I'm glad to welcome you, and Jamal, you're on the board. We have a good communication going on now, but I'm going to tell you something. I have been visible like Steve in that school for the last 6 years. It's not on the outside what we need. We need to correct what's on the inside. As a former principal, let me tell you something. Our expectations have to be high. We have to have teamwork. We have to be able to not be afraid to call parents when children are acting out. The message to the children have to be very clear to the children. The messenger has to be the right messenger. As I watched over the past year, the years with children transitioning from Bailey School to the high school, there needed to be more orientations. So you can set the stage. There was no constant orientation. So the children came and they were enjoying themselves and they didn't know what the expectations are. We have to work on the inside first. It hurt my heart to hear that a policeman is going to come to our school with 700 kids. I can control 700 kids.
Exactly.
And I can control them right because they listen. When I speak to those children over there, matter of fact, many of them call me Nana. When I speak to them, they listen. And yes, I saw some horse playing, but nothing. When I hear 200 assaults and this and that and the other, no. I will tell you, I will stand in court and tell you, no, it didn't happen. I was over there after lunch when the kids are free. I was over there when they came from the movies and came back, and everybody was in the cafeteria area and in the area, the loose area there. They walked in, they were silent, they were thinking. Certainly, these are kids, but they need to be spoken to first in the right way. And if there's some kids who are doing something wrong, they need to be called out. So we need to work inside first. I don't want Dr. Evans to think that, hey, we're dealing with a school system that is out of control. We are not out of control. We have some of the best kids there. And you know what? A lot of those kids just need a tap on the shoulder. You need to say to them, I would say, don't let me call your mom. You know, I go home and pick your mom up and bring her back to the school. And I meant just what I said. So we have to have more people who know what's going on, because we send the wrong message, then we are doomed. We don't need to send the wrong. We've had policemen in the school. I know a lot of policemen and they are very friendly. But look at the message that we're sending to the community. I don't want to pay my taxes and have to pay double for policemen and for the school to control themselves. We need to talk more about how we have to be sensitive to these children who all come from different homes with different backgrounds, just to talk to them and find out, what are you thinking? Why are you doing that? Come over here, let me talk to you. That's what we need, the infrastructure worked on. And the teachers need conferences where they can understand that we're dealing with young people who are confronting so many things today. We need to be patient. We need to be compassionate. We need to be able to look and sometimes not always respond where they are going to get out of control because they got to show their friends that they're all that in a piece of potato chip. We have to know how to speak to young people. And I'm with Steve. I've gone through that school. I think it's blown out of proportion. I'm sorry. May not like what I'm doing, but I'm real. And I'm going to school. I got 2 daughters who graduated and a granddaughter. And I have been in and out of school all the time, not for them, but to let the children know that I'm there for you. And if there's a problem, tell Mrs. Fells, tell Nana, I'll help you. I mean, I'm on duty 7 days a week. I go to churches, I go to where they go, I go everywhere. And I see them and always want to know, how are things at home? How are things at school? Is there somebody at school that you can talk to when you need to say something? We need to work on that. I'm sorry. It's in my soul. I love my babies and it's in my heart. And I'll do everything I can to keep a policeman from that school. I'm sorry. It sends the wrong message. Whatever they saying that is happening, let's work together to eradicate the behavior. We can do it. Kids just need to, they don't care how much you know, they care how much you care. And that is a cliche that is said, and it works. And when you show your love and you show your patience and you give your time, you'll see the difference. So right now, let's hold up on the policeman concept because it hurts me. Right in my heart, I got nervous my shoulder, beside that, my dermal shot I had today. The other part of my body started to ache, and I wanted to come out like this because I've been there. Have you been there every day? You have to go there. Feel free to go. Well, now we probably can't go because of the pandemic, but I was there. I talked to the teachers and the children and the parents and the administrators.
Thank you.
And I'm here. Dr. Everson, if I can help in any way, I have resources, and it's not a policeman. So I'm here to help.
Thank you so much. Definitely appreciate it. Edith?
Okay, I totally am in favor of some of the things that I've heard. I do not like the idea of the policeman in the school. To me, it does not send the correct message to the children. I think that we have to teach the children how to be responsible for their learning. They are responsible for the energy that they bring to the spaces where they learn, and we have to teach them that. One of the things that I think that's important is to teach kids 7 basic things, and I know I did it in my classroom, and I know it works. Number 1, how to make good choices. Number 2, how to have a plan. Number 3, how to prioritize. Number 4, how to have a win-win attitude, getting along with other people. Number 5, listen first before you speak. 6, how to synergize, how to be part of a team. And then last but not least, how to take care of yourself. I would like to know, does each student from within themselves, not because somebody told them, not because their parents told them, administrators, does each child have a goal? Do they know why they come to school? And how are we going to help them achieve those goals? Are they understanding that they are tomorrow's leaders? Are we teaching them how to be leaders, giving them those strategies and techniques that they need? I don't see that when you are talking about policemen. I have to agree with Steve. It sends the negative message. And that's why I was upset, as I told you earlier, about one of my neighbors who moved because she said the school is out of control. It's not out of control. It is not, okay? And there's a different perception, and we all know what the perception is, the elephant in the room. That's the perception, okay? And that can change if you teach the children those 7 things, and it's done on a regular basis. My kids rarely got into trouble, rarely. And if they did, there was always 2 sides to the story. Let me hear your side. You'll get your turn. Let me hear this one first. And they'll talk a little bit. Okay, do you agree with that? Well, no. Okay, tell me your side. I hear your side. Then we come to a meeting of the minds. But those are some of the strategies and some of the things that we need to be doing with the kids. We seem to think that the people on the outside, the policeman, can do something. The policeman, he's nice, he's good for police officers, but that's not the image you want to have in a school. And that's not sending a good, my opinion, it's not sending a good message to the community. Remember, in the ultimate setting, you want these people, meaning the people in the community, you want them to vote for your budget. They're not going to vote if they see policemen all over the place and think that, oh, that school's out of control. That's what they're thinking right now. That's, in my opinion, why that bond went down, because that's what I heard. And I live in a small community. I live in the same community that Steve lives. He lives across the street from me. So I heard the same thing. And so I'm against that, because to me, it sends the wrong message. And we are, okay, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. I just decided that. We're talking about a lot of kids of color.
Absolutely.
Wrong message. Wrong message. Our kids are smart. They listen, if they can perform in church, and you know that they all perform in church, they're in the choir, they're in the Girls Friendly Society, the youth groups, their leadership, you can do it in the school. But it takes a different mindset. You have to have, as I think Ms. Spell said, you have to have an expectation. If you don't have that expectation that this child that you're looking at in that school is going to be the next president of the United States, then you're not worth your salt as a teacher, as a principal, as a superintendent. You're not worth your salt, period. You have to have high expectations for every child, and you can't do it, my opinion. You cannot do it when you have policemen standing at the door. I worked 40 years in the Tuckahoe Union Free School District. No policeman. Everybody comes, you do your job, you do the right thing for kids, right strategies. I hope that we're using literacy. Literacy is a great thing for all children, not some of these other things that just focus on one aspect that leave the children in a situation where now they're in special ed. I did special ed too. I was a resource room teacher for my first 9 years, Title I. So I get it. I've been on both sides of the desk and in leadership as well. You have to have high expectations and teach the kids the strategies. I just gave you 7 of them, 7 that work.
Thank you.
If you need help, I'll help you. If you need help implementing them, I'm here for you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate everybody's opinion. Up next, we have Kelly Johnson.
Hi, thank you. I pretty much agree with everything else, what everybody else had to say. I don't think we should have a police presence in the school. I too am an educator. I went to Woodlands myself, graduated from Woodlands. I teach in a pre-K through 8 school in Yonkers. We do not have policemen. And yes, we have similar problems. We have kids that curse. We have, especially in the middle school, because part of that comes with the age. We do have a security officer, but I've never seen that per se. And I think the perception of a police officer being in a building, especially with the climate that we're in right now as a country, I think that would be a really bad idea. I think that, I know you mentioned making relationships with police officers. That's fine, but I think we can do that in other ways. I know from younger grades, when I was on the PTA at Highview, for example, we used to bring the police in and they would do different activities with the children. The children loved it and the children got to know the police officers. And I thought that was beautiful. But having someone sort of to monitor the children as a police officer, I think is a different situation. And I don't know if I definitely don't agree with it. And I have to be honest, I'm a parent. So I'm a true believer in public schools. I grew up in the public schools. I teach in the public schools. But there were times where I had questioned whether or not, because people kept coming up to me with the different stories they hear about Greenburgh. And I was debating, should I put my child in public schools? Should I not? I've actually went to different schools and I saw what other schools had to offer, but my heart was always in public school. And throughout, I always kept him in. He's now at Bailey. I know I've had neighbors come up to me. They're like, you're actually going to allow your kid to stay through Woodlands and the middle school. And it's honestly, it's thanks to people like Steve Morton, Miss Spells. There's some parents who are not in the district anymore that would speak to me that had children in high school. I could run through a list of names that were like, girl, the schools are safe. Don't feel a certain way. You need to give it a try. This would be a great element for your child. And they give me a lot of reasons why I should stay. But if I saw cops, it would be feeding into the other information that people are telling me and would make me second guess myself. And that would probably be exactly what would make me decide to take him out.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kelly. We appreciate your perspective. Dr. Dragic?
Yeah, so I obviously hear and understand the concerns. I think I just wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, pre-COVID, the Safety and Technology Committee actually did a safety assessment of our schools, and they did actually recommend an SRO. So this is sort of just an extension of many conversations that we had pre-COVID. And so that was one thing. I think the other thing is that there, again, it doesn't have. I gave you examples that I know of, but there are perhaps other ways of building these relationships. I actually think it's a very important thing to do, because as everyone euphemistically says, of the current environment that we live in. I think it is one way of mending those civic relationships and building them actually to have a, whether it's an SRO, whether it's police officers just coming into the school and sitting with the kids and having lunch with them and walking around and talking to them. And on some level, you know, there are other school districts have it, and it's a benefit. I mean, again, I definitely hear the concerns. I definitely understand the concerns, but I would like us to maybe take time to think a little bit about this, because at the end of the day, what we really need to focus on is the well-being of the kids. And again, having something like this would only just be one small piece that would include everything that everyone else talked about, SCL, guidance counselors, psychologists, etc. So that was.
Thank you. David?
What's your phone? Did you call me?
I would.
Deborah, I'm sorry, Deborah, if you can mute your phone, Deborah. Thank you. Go ahead, David.
Okay, so I mean, I kind of came up from school to school and with my daughter, and the information I received always was that those upper schools are dangerous and terrible. Don't send your kids to them. And then I would talk to people who had older siblings in the schools, and I got two different stories, and I went and looked for myself, and it's sort of like, no, the things that you're talking about that's not how things are. I have walked through Woodlands many times for years and years, and what you're portraying is not the reality. It's much nicer than that. I've had administrators come in from other districts in New York City who said, "Don't worry, I can deal with tough kids." And then they're here for 2 months. They say, "But these kids are nice."
Exactly.
And so there is a problem with causing a negative perception if you do this. So I'm thinking I have had experiences when there got to be not quite enough adults in the mix. And so if you want to spend a little bit of money, you increase the number of adults, you increase the number of TAs, you increase the number of instructional personnel in some way, and you can change that. You can change that ratio a little bit if you need a few more authority figures. But probably I wouldn't spend the money on police as my first thing that I would do. I would do something else. Okay.
David, I think I made the point at the beginning of my presentation that every district has these issues because they're dealing with teenagers. So this is in no way singling out or targeting the children of Greenburgh. So
the all-white school that I grew up in.
I understand, but this keeps coming up as if though there is an accusation here, and there isn't. It's just that there is, you know, there is like in every other school there are issues, and so this could potentially be just one piece to deal with them, or not. I mean, or not.
I have a follow-up question. The 3 schools in the county of Westchester that are at the top in terms of their academic performance are Scarsdale, Bronxville, and Chappaqua. So what I would like to know, has anyone done any research to see if police are in those schools?
Well, I can tell you that they are in Scarsdale. I don't know about the other 2 districts. Yes.
Okay. Well, we've obviously heard a lot, and there's a bunch of different opinions on this one. I certainly understand, you know, the concerns from both sides, and I think that we all want to get to the same place, you know, where our schools are safe and kids are thriving, and I think that there are a multitude of ways for us to do that. Up in the chat, what came up a couple of times is a dean, which, if I understand correctly, we do not currently have. But overall, in terms of my study of education, and I've seen stories, out the wazoo about when you implement restorative practices in a school and you make that a part of the overall culture of a school where children from an early age sit down with one another and somebody walks them through a process that allows them to, fully understand the harm that they've caused to someone else. Those students start to move up through the process and understand how not to do those things. And then they work with each other, they'll start doing restorative circles, without the adults.
Exactly.
And so those are the type of things that I think are the most important. And then I guess just to answer the question, Dr. Iverson, or David or Tanya, you guys have been around longer. Was there any particular reason why the former dean wasn't replaced? And isn't a dean, kind of the person who's supposed to, focus on some of the things that we're discussing that potentially a police officer could do?
My problem is that I would get into an area of a personnel issue if I really talked about that.
Okay.
A dean is someone normally who is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, so a dean is a person who is usually a gatekeeper, that person who handles all the discipline in a school. The size of Woodland, 700 kids. They have an AP at the high school and one at the middle school level. The discipline is a major function of an assistant principal to manage the discipline in the school. But what's happening is, and I've talked to Mrs. Smith, he and I talk probably 3 times a day about just different things. He calls me all the time. And I've done a lot of walkthroughs in that building. I just see a culture. I think a lot of this is perception that's out there, and perception is the hardest thing to kill. Because once someone has it, they just don't let go of it. You could stand on your head, they just won't let go of it. I just been here 3 months. I'm glad to see that early on, when I walked through that building, the kids are friendly. They come up to me and introduce themselves. I see the assistant principal and the principal they have just real strong relationships with the students. They know them all by name. They're respectful to one another. I just haven't seen that yet. Now, yes, Mr. Smith and I have talked many times about if something happens, he calls me. We work it through. We apply the code of conduct. We contact parents. But it's typical high school stuff so far. But I think the way to go, and I was going to mention just what you said, Trustee Thomas, the way to tackle this is to change the culture internally. And that is to helping our students learn how to peacefully coexist, giving them the language and the tools to be able to problem solve when they are in situations like this. So they don't resort to swearing at each other and hitting. And Mr. Smith and I have talked about restorative practice around looking at that, perhaps at the high school. And at the elementary school, it's around second step and positive behavior intervention support. All of these is a way to create a climate or culture where the discipline is viewed from another lens of helping them learn how to do things positively, using positive language around recognizing when they're doing something positive and having them process that. If I were to approach it, I would probably want to approach it through that vehicle first to see if we can build capacity there. Second, I want to speak to the monitors in the building. We could possibly use more of them because we just can't keep them. For some reason, they just don't sustain. But I even observe and watch the halls, and they're all stationed all over the place. And they're at the end of the hall. And I just watch the change of classes. When they come out, when they all congregate in that hall and they have that 3 minutes before they have to get to the next class, and you watch them peacefully kind of joke and play, and they know each other, and they get to class by 3 minutes. The halls were clear.
Wow.
But the security guards are stationed, and they're just connecting with those kids. So they just know them, and the kids are respecting direction. Hey man, don't go in that locker. You know, it's not locker time. Hey, hurry up, get to class. That bell's, and they're hustling. It's all the things I remember when I was a high school assistant principal. I just see the school as a place where I'm listening, but I just haven't observed it. I do think I want to keep my eye on that. I think this is a great conversation for us to think about. We certainly don't want that perception about Woodlands Middle School. It's the central focal point of the district, because that's where they all come eventually. They all land there. So that's where we were all at the football game. So we want that place to be the vehicle that attracts our parents back, starting from all our elementary, and staying with us through high school. So I think these are good conversations, but I think we keep talking about it. And I'm just listening attentively so I can start really just watching and keeping my eye on the high school in terms of that perception that's out there, and working with the administrators. So far, like I said, I just have not truthfully and transparently observed any of that. No more than I would expect being a high school assistant principal for 9 years. I just don't see anything different.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. I see hands up. I don't know if they're still up, or whether we can from this issue, or whether we can move on. I don't know whether they just didn't go down before.
We can move on.
Move on.
Okay.
Move on.
I don't know how to take my hand down. I learned how to put it up, but I don't know how to take it down.
You go back to reactions, and there's raise hand, lower hand.
Yeah.
Change the button changes to lower hand.
I see. Okay. I just learned something. Okay.
Well, thank you everybody for the spirited discussion on that. We will keep everybody's perspectives and opinions in consideration as we just discuss this with the board. The next up, we have ideas for improved district communication. So we've talked about newsletter. We've talked about surveys. There was something I mentioned at the board meeting the other day that I wanted to garner opinion on about. I'm not sure if everybody's watching the board meetings, but obviously we oftentimes we're in executive session a good deal of the time. I think it'd be a good idea for us to have some type of videos that play for the community during the course of that executive session time, something that can kind of roll over, that has frequently asked questions, that maybe speaks to upcoming events. And I wanted to open the floor to a discussion with folks on what else, if anything, that I might be missing, and what they would want those things to look and feel like. What would make you say, hey, I'm going to share this with my neighbors because this is such high quality stuff that I wanted to hear from the district. Don't you all go at once now. Oh, David, go ahead.
Sure. Okay, so in olden times when I ran this committee, we were meeting in person pre-COVID. I had this nice agenda, and part of the agenda would be like a mini calendar of upcoming events, and I would try and make sure that I confirm that the events were really happening, when and where, and the calendar only went to a little past the next CEC meeting. So it was like a 1 month thing. So it wasn't too terrible. And for the 15 people in the room, that worked really well. But of course, there aren't just 15 people in the district. So the idea of getting it out there onto a larger platform is a much better idea. So yes, have a short list of upcoming events where you double checked when and where and what those events will be, exactly what you need in order to be able to show up at the event, have that come on a list and circulate it, and then update it every month. You are correct. That's the thing to do.
We also talked about, remember we talked about FAQs, also running a list of FAQs, perhaps most frequently asked questions around a particular topic that month. That's the focus. That could be possibly something that just kind of runs through during executive session as well.
Steve?
I'm going to think out of the box here, as I always do. Maybe do some snippet of have some of the older kid with permission from the parents, maybe,
Right.
to do little things about what they feel about their school. Well, why don't you show some of the diversity? I bet most of the people here don't even know who's in the middle school and the high schools and the kids. Maybe have one or two of them play a musical instrument so that they know. Maybe show a snippet of the fact that we have tennis team and people don't even know what's going on, or swimming or basketball. Yeah, everybody knows that, but what about fencing or whatever? We could do snippets, have the kids talk poetry. You know, get the kids involved in seeing the Board of Ed meeting. Maybe they want to see themselves.
Good idea.
That's a good idea.
Great idea.
Great idea.
I see Mary Spells.
Can't hear.
You're on mute,
Can't hear
Mary.
you. We can't hear you, Mary.
Mary, you're on mute.
There you go.
Sorry. I would like to see a newsletter going out quarterly from each of the schools, highlighting some of the fantastic things that they're doing. This not only highlights the kids and bring that to our attention, but it also brings competition between teachers. Because if they're doing something spectacular and it's coming to the forefront for that newsletter that at that particular time, then the next teacher wants to showcase their kids. So, you know, we learn through competition, and the children like competition, but a newsletter quarterly from each of the schools will let the parents know from Highview, from ECP, Jackson, and all the schools, the high school, some of the highlights of what happened this particular month. That keeps us energized and let us know that things are going on. And so that's a recommendation.
And make sure that the seniors get a copy.
I'm sorry.
Make sure that the seniors get a copy.
Yes, you know, the seniors call me a lot about what's going on.
Yes.
And so I try to keep them informed. Yes.
Because also the newsletter, you know, everybody is not technology savvy. So the newsletter is a very good idea.
Great idea.
Thank you. Thank you. Samantha was next.
Hello. Oh my goodness, what's on my background? Holy cow. Hi, friends. I probably got you from San Francisco. I want to echo what Steve said, because more broadly, but also more specifically, the website has been so beautifully redesigned, and a guiding factor in that design was to highlight our students. It should be all about the kids all the time, that everything we do is about them. So if we have something on a feed and we can make it, even what's on the website, showcasing our children, highlighting what amazing things they're doing. If we have video and they make something that we have permission to put up there, I think anytime we can take advantage of highlighting our students, the better. And I think there will occasionally be naysayers of this district who attend those board meetings to get their piece in, and maybe having them see some of our beautiful students is a really nice way to reach that part of the community. I think they are a little disconnected from our kids, and I want to connect them. And Mrs. Spells, you're such an amazing advocate for these students. Can I please make you an honorary Highview PTA member, because you will get a monthly newsletter showcasing all amazing things going on at Highview. And if you think you want to broadcast it far and wide, I'll send it to you.
I see the best in everything. I see the best. I don't always take in the negative, because a lot of people on the outside, and I've been here 53 years, they just say things just to get the and they don't visit the schools. So I'm hoping that when the pandemic is calm down and we can go in and work together with everybody, because this is what it's all about. All about coming together and sorting out ideas of how we can make things better.
I think it's really all about the kids. And I love the idea of having something scrolling while we all sit and wait for executive session. I really appreciate that thought, and I would love to keep it focused on our kids.
Okay. We got Jessica, Kelly, Tanya, and then David. Go ahead, Jessica.
Just very quickly, building on what Ms. Spells just shared, again, as parents, we need to hear more from the principals, but going to that connection between the buildings to help the transitions, having more of those newsletters from the school, or potentially an overarching one from the superintendent, will help to build those connections. So the PTAs are trying to do it, but I think we also need at the administrative level And I know, like, I'm a LFJ parent, but I am a PTA member at Highview, so I can get Sam's newsletter. So I'm aware of what's going to happen next year when I make that transition. So it's not going to be so scary and new. So anytime we can make those bridges, both for parents and community members, I think is really, really important.
Got it. Kelly?
Sorry about that. Okay. I was going to say the same thing. I'm echoing the same idea about the newsletter. I love the idea of making it quarterly. I do think it's important. I don't know how much it costs to do those mailings, but I have a lot of neighbors that do read those mailings that go out right before the budget. I think it goes out like twice a year, and they'll tell you about like the students that are graduating, where they're going to school, and it definitely attracts, especially some of the parents that don't have children that are of school age yet. If they see that more frequently, it could attract, it could get the information out to the seniors, but also some of those parents that have young children to give them an idea of what's happening in the schools. And maybe they haven't quite figured out how to maneuver the websites yet. And then I also, Trustee Thomas, love the idea of having that, you said you were going to have the video that tells different things that are going on throughout the district, right?
We have to develop it. It's an idea. It sounds like you guys like it. So
It's a good idea.
You have to work in conjunction with the administration to develop it. So we're working on it.
Yeah, I like that because they used to do that on a TV. I forgot what station. They probably still have that station. I think it was like Channel 34 or something, and it would like show the different things happening in the district. And I know sometimes they put it on YouTube sometimes, but something like that would be really important. And I think that would be great as well. And also putting the newsletters on the different schools' websites so that when people are looking at a school, like they might be looking at Lee F. Jackson, they could sort of see what's happening if they just happen to go onto those websites.
Okay. Tanya?
I just wanted to do due diligence to a community member who really liked your idea about the kind of announcements during executive session. And she suggested that we sort of intersperse those with students' artwork. So I just wanted to put that out there. I think it goes along with what Steve was saying about, you know, having kids playing instruments or whatever, but that it should be along with the information, showcase the kids as well. And I just want to take this opportunity. I have to apologize, but I have to go into another meeting. So I'll be leaving in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Tanya. I believe David was next.
Just briefly, I wanted to say that make sure that if you have an interactive video of students in front of you, that there's something across the bottom of the screen that lets you know that you're sort of in pause mode for a closed session of the board, so people don't think they've tuned into the wrong thing.
Okay. Banner on bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Dr. Iverson, would you like to just address this idea and what you need from the board next and support, you know, outside of the board, or and you know what resources you may have to bring to bear from a district perspective, you know, if we need to curb our enthusiasm anywhere because the resources aren't there, like can you kind of share any initial thoughts?
So I was waiting to finish because we have instituted quarterly newsletters. The first one is coming out. I was holding until I thought I wanted to share with the board of trustees first, but since you asked and you're trustees, I can share it with this committee. November will be the first quarterly newsletter that will come out. It will highlight a lot about the district. The board has a corner. I have a corner, and their highlights from every school, or maybe one school she's featuring. We're working with our public relations consultant around this, and so there'll be 4 of those this year. Equally, so that's coming out. So the idea to have, I heard the idea of having newsletters from every school. They are going to be featured in these newsletters quarterly. So see if, once you look at the one for November, when we meet again, see if that serves that purpose. And we may use that vehicle to really highlight the schools 4 times a year in that one newsletter that talks about the district. See if that helps at all.
I mean, we don't have a lot of space. I mean, the wording and all, she's worked it out, but that will be coming out November. Then we'll have the next one. I think she said around February, and then in the spring, and then towards the end of the year. And each one will be relative to that season. The end of the year, we'll have end of the year information, and mid-year and so forth. So it'll be a lot of information, and it's going out to everyone in Greenburgh Central School District. Now, I do like the piece about getting it out to the seniors. I want to work on how I can get that information, because we want to get it out of beyond the school district and to the community as well. So we're actively talking about how we can improve the communication and how we communicate with you and our community at large. And so that's one way. We're going to start doing more, weekly messages. I recorded one today, and these messages will come out either by video and or by letter. And in some of those, the community will hear highlights. So I wanted to just give you some idea that we are on the right page. I'm right in sync with you around that. So when we now go into exec session, some of this information, I love the idea, but it will take time to figure this out, how to get this to roll. I will have to meet with technology, Laser, who's on the call, and Miguel and Carlos to see about what will be featured, edit it very well, and put the graphics with it. It's not overnight, but I can make a commitment to start looking into it, Trustee Thomas, to see what needs to happen on the administrative level to begin the scroll during exec session each time. I don't know what that will entail, to be honest. I have to find out from the tech people.
Gotcha. Thank you. And one thing that just popped into mind, and I don't know whether this is possible at all, it could be something that we put some of it in students' hands, at least, the portions that we've discussed that are students. Like, if we could put, these kids know how to do a lot, like on their phones, you know what I mean? And I feel like it would have been exciting for me. Well, we didn't have computers like that, but I mean, we had computers, but it wasn't, not to the extent that they are able to just create amazing things on the phone. So making it something where, where we give them some, creative license and some agency to say, hey, there's a period of time that's going to be 10 minutes every board meeting that you guys get to say whatever you want to the community within reason, and giving them an opportunity to do so. So maybe that's, how a part of the way we address it. I see hands raised. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, in sending out the newsletter, Dr. Iverson, do you already have the addresses for the calendar that's sent out? The school calendars, that goes to everybody in the community, is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that means that what I'm hearing you say is that you would also be sending this newsletter out the same way to everybody in the community.
In the Greenburgh Central School District, yes.
That's what I mean. So, well,
yes.
Okay. Whether you have children or not, just the entire community.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Let me confirm that. I know when I talked to the tech team today, they said everyone, I said, I want this to go out to everyone in Greenburgh Central School District, and they said it will. So I'm assuming they're included, but I want to double check that. But yes, you may know Trustee Warner.
We have done this for years and years and years, and it goes to every household.
Okay.
And in recent years, we haven't kept up with it like we should. We haven't cranked out newsletters at the speed that we should. So this is more of a restoration. We're trying to up our game in terms of execution here.
Yes,
so
we are.
We're trying to get back on track, and that will hopefully make things better.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that is. Sorry, were you going to say something, Dr. Iverson?
No, I was saying, thank you for clarifying that, because I wanted to be sure it wasn't just parents of students in Greenburgh Central School District, but Greenburgh Central School District at large. Then everyone is getting this newsletter. It should be very, very nice. I think you will enjoy reading it and so we're reinstituting that as of November.
And I would encourage, everybody who's on this call, this is the Community Engagement and Communications Committee. So you guys' ideas on what we should be communicating, I think, certainly are things that Dr. Iverson should hear. And then she can make the determination on what, should actually be going out. So I think that'll be great. We're coming towards a close. One thing that we want to mention, and I know that Jessica mentioned it earlier, and I'll ask David again to speak to these things because he is just a wealth of knowledge at all times. December 14th, we have our votes for the Capital Reserve Fund as well as student ex officio school board member. David, if you could speak to both of those quickly, and then if we could have a group discussion on what we feel like are the best ways. Jessica, you came up with a great idea earlier of having somebody at the stations on day of, but you got to get them to the station. So what can we do collectively to help get the community out to vote on the 14th?
Okay, Proposition 1 is the Capital Reserve Fund. So we currently have a repair reserve fund, which allows you to save money up to make repairs. The problem is that some of the items that we considered to be important are not considered to be repairs. Some of them are considered to be replacements or upgrades. We ran into it with a mansion roof. We'll run into it with the other roofs that we need to fully replace in all the different schools. So the Capital Reserve Fund is a way of saving money in order to carry things over. If you have a project that's large enough that might take up more than 1 year's worth of funding. It's like having a bucket, a piggy bank, okay? Now, this particular proposition doesn't put any money in the piggy bank. We have sources that we're going to use from yearly budget surpluses to try and populate that, or we may do a bond at a later time, but this is just creating the container, so there's no actual additional cost to the taxpayer. The second proposition, Proposition 2, student ex officio school board member. Well, it's really important that we keep our focus on the students, and it's good that the students learn about participatory government. And so the idea is that you could bring in a student, probably at the high school level, who could come and attend our board meetings and be a non-voting member. They wouldn't get in on the personnel stuff, but all the open session debates, they could be there, and their presence would remind us of what we're there for. In addition to any participation they may do. So those are the two propositions, and that's the vote for December 14th.
I have another question. Well, David, will everything you just said, is that in a written form someplace? Or is that
the text of the propositions was agreed upon, so it's in the board agendas, and we can take it and make it a little shorter, and if you want to. Is there anything in the newsletter, Linda, Dr. Iverson?
No, not about that. No.
Okay.
Not about the cash reserve. No, it's not that the vote. But that's a good point. Maybe we could do something to get that word out, because we do want that vote to pass.
Yeah, the more ways, the more channels we can use to get the word out.
I'll check on that with the PR person tomorrow.
Is it too late?
The reason I'm asking is because I live over here in Park Ridge Village, which is a very small community, and we have a monthly newsletter, and I'm the person that does it every month. And every month I've been putting in the activities as I see them on the website, on the school district website, when the board meetings are, or community engagement, hoping that the children, the parents of children who attend the Greenburgh schools will be participatory in those activities. So since this seems to be something that's very important, I mean, everything is important, but if I could get that, if somehow there's something written in a concise form, I can put that in the newsletter under the section that I have for the Greenburgh schools, because I do have a section for Greenburgh schools.
So are you looking for just a brief paragraph? Because we can just go right on the, would you do that? You want me to do that, Trustee Warner? I can go right on and send it to you. Okay. Yeah. And then, yes, you can simply put what I send you right in your correspondence.
Okay, so I will, okay.
And so go ahead.
My email address,
yes,
if you have
I'm ready.
EDH92249@me.com.
May I
And I
read it
can
back
have-
to you?
Yes.
EDH.92249
EDH92249, no dot.
oh, no dot. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Horn, I'm sorry, did you want that public?
Yeah, it's okay.
It is now.
It is now. Hey, I'm good. Okay.
Okay.
I have it though, EDH92249@me.com.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would just quickly say that I think so I've heard this a bunch of times, and it's confusing to me that we're just moving money from this one place to another, and then we have to have a vote for that, and like that seems. I mean, it is what it is, but so
we're not moving any money yet. We're just asking the public for permission to have this cash reserve fund. There's no money at this point being moved.
got it. So, but I think
David?
The big thing is no new taxes. No, your taxes are not being raised. Like that's the the message that is not abstract.
Right.
That is,
right. This will not impact taxes at all. It's just giving us permission to have a cash reserve fund. Just yes,
and
no.
So that's the. I mean, I guess that's not a carrot because it's just standing, pat. But what's the stick? If this does fail, David, what's the problem that we all have to deal with?
Problem is building up enough funding to complete a large project like a roof replacement on something as big as a high school.
Which makes it an unlikely thing to be able to do without this vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these things he's mentioning are replacement things. They're not simple repairs. So we need that vote to replace some things that we need to fix.
So any other thoughts from the committee on?
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brazetta.
I have two questions. So now I get it, where you said that we're not increasing anything. And David, I like the visual where you said it's like a piggy bank. There is no money yet. So I think that needs to really be explicit, because it seems like you were trying to get money, but you're saying there is no money. We just want the vehicle or the container, as you said, to have the money.
Right.
That's correct. All right, that needs to be clear. And number two, I think it's a great idea having high school, even middle school students sit in on board meetings, except of course for executive sessions and having the privilege to vote. How will that student or those students be selected? Is there another protocol?
So no, not yet. We're just going for the vote. If the vote passes, then we will develop a protocol for that. And it will be high school only, not middle school at this point. And probably will be a senior. Someone who's older, and this is how they begin to learn that process and participate in discussions and give the student perspective on things that the board is deciding that impact them. So they definitely have a voice, just not a vote. So we don't know yet, just that will be something we will develop.
Thank you. That's a great idea though. Thank you.
Jessica?
And just to add in, the reason why the vote is happening in December is because the opening of the account and the moving of money into it have to happen at different times. So if this vote to open the piggy bank were to happen in the spring, you wouldn't be able to move money in until later. And there is some work that is in the pipeline. So we want to get that money moved. So there's a reason why it's happening now. And I think that's important this seems random to have a vote in December, but we need to get it in this calendar year to be able to move forward. So that idea of we just have to create the account, and the state requires us to do the creation and the movement in 2 different time periods.
Understood.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I have for the evening. Is there anything else anyone would like to bring up by way of comments, questions, concerns that we could focus on in the last few minutes? Stephen?
Yeah, just one last thing. We just had our homecoming for Woodland last week, and I saw quite a few people there. But when I drove in, I noticed that even the big board we have right there at the high school had nothing about the homecoming. There was no banner at the entrance of the high school. There's no banner at the other side. I think that, you know, there would have been a lot more people if we could just promote it. I heard from a couple of people yesterday that said, you know what, I found out too late. And whether, you know, I just feel we need to promote these kind of things in a bigger way for the community. Maybe we could even honor a community person during the homecoming, during the, you know, just for like 5 minutes and giving a civil service award at the homecoming, which will bring out some of the seniors or somebody. I also think we need to showcase our youth just a little bit more. The band was absolutely fantastic. Just for transparency, my son is in it. But we could have just had a 5-minute choral thing from the choir chorus or something. Wow. I just think we could do more to show the community we're not just a football game, but it's a real homecoming.
Yeah, and we are coming off COVID and having nothing last year. I mean, this was a tremendous beginning. Mr. Smith and I and McCoy have talked about just how this should look next year. I wish you could have, you probably were, Mr. Morton. I don't know if you were, I didn't see you, but it doesn't mean you weren't there. The pep rally they had Friday afternoon was absolutely awesome. And it was so wonderful to see them out, the kids absolutely out on that field, everyone out of the building on that field, enjoying different activities. So it's a beginning as we're rebuilding and beginning again to start to do those things.
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So yes, I love the ideas you have about advertising. We do need to do a better job about that, because if you think about it now, in my comments on this, I think, private schools, charter schools, they do a better job at advertising their programs. That's why they attract so many people. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying their programs are better, but how they sell it is what really attracts and gets their numbers up. And I think as public school educators, we need to do the very same to sell our programs and sell what we have to offer. And so those are great ideas and things that my administrative team and I are in conversation around how we can do these things, looking ahead next year to homecoming already around how to elevate that level so that it becomes what you were used to years ago, a central focal point where I heard you could barely get a seat. It was if you weren't there in time. We want that back for our kids. And I think everyone has that vision for that. So I'm asking for another year to try for us to do that. Continue to give me those great ideas, and I'm pushing on administration in every way I can to assure that these things happen for our kids. So,
one other thing real quick, don't be afraid to utilize the people of the community engagement to help you, because we can be a catalyst to help you. We appreciate you coming to our meeting and doing what you're doing. And we know this is a tough job in the beginning, but we're here. And, maybe even in the springtime, we break the ice and do a mini homecoming in the springtime. So, we'll work with you.
Thank you. And we are watching COVID. We are hoping to pull back eventually. I was on my superintendent call this week. And, we're watching still what CDC says. Right now, CDC, if you watch their website, they have not CDC, but Westchester County has it that's moderate. But according to the New York State Department of Ed, they're still holding us to masking and quarantining. So there's still this disconnect between the major organizations around where we are, but all superintendents are holding fast with that just yet. But I will say to you, as our COVID numbers are low in the district, and since we've started the weekly testing, we have had, the first week of testing, no one came back positive, not one person. And so this is our second week. We've got more people to consent as another layer of prevention to just kind of be able to prevent that disease, or being able to diagnose it and know it ahead of time and get those people out of the environment has really helped. We are looking to become, I signed Greenburgh up and took a survey, all of us had to, around would we be open to being a vaccination site if we could partner with another vendor. I did indicate yes, if we could partner like we're doing with the research lab for the testing. So we're constantly in conversation around how to continue to provide an environment that's safe for everyone who enters our doors, so that we can back off of some of these. I want everything back to normal like everyone else. But we do need to tread slowly. We still have people around who are not vaccinated, and we need to protect those students as well as staff as much as possible. I will tell you, most of the staff we have about 300 teachers fully vaccinated, and the 100 who are not are being tested every week. And so we have that under wraps. So your children are not in front of anyone who's not safe. When you send them to school, the people in front of them are being held to a standard of being safe. And it's happening. And so that's working. That's working. Every teacher turned in their card to show they were vaccinated. And those who aren't, and no one's coming back positive. And we're doing it weekly to catch it early. So, this is all good stuff. We continue to look at how we can continue to do more. As I said, with vaccinations being the next thing. So exciting things are coming. I can't tell you how my heart feels so excited about where we're going as a district and the things we have in mind to really become that world-class district I know we are and can be. So we'll continue on, and I'll continue to report every month about where we are with that if Trustee Thomas has me on the agenda.
You're always invited, Dr. Iverson, and Dr. Macaluso is also
yes.
invited. I certainly hope that the community gets an opportunity to meet him, and I'm sure they'll be as impressed by him as I have been.
Yes.
And maybe the Education and Wellness Committee is more, the place for him. But we can discuss what makes the most sense in that regard. Two things I did want to mention, based on what you just brought up. One, in terms of an event in the spring, I'm always looking for a reason to cook, and the PTA had a fantastic idea around sharing with the community all of the various different things that the district has available, and maybe the spring is a great time to do it because it gives an opportunity for parents who maybe don't have kids in the district to say, wow, you know what, Greenburgh has a bunch of fantastic things going on, and over the summertime it gives them time to consider bringing students back. So I will reshare the PTA's proposal, and maybe we can start to have conversations around making that happen in the springtime. And the other thing one thing that has come up from a community engagement perspective that I believe will be on our next board agenda is the Mount Vernon Health Center, which is in Greenburgh, is interested in putting health centers in the school and staffing them. So I know that that's something that's been discussed in years past. There was reasons and rationale why it didn't work. I don't know the full history on it, but I know that those things are gonna come up. Perhaps they would be a great partner for the COVID testing, vaccination that you just discussed. So that's something that we'll be talking about as a board and community in the not too distant future.
Okay, good news.
Mr. Warner, and then Mr. Mary Spells.
Okay, just a sentence or two. The Build Back Better bill is still under negotiations in Congress, and there are a lot of provisions being traded down as the thing gets smaller to try and get enough people to vote for it to pass. One thing I haven't noticed that's coming up, I'm being made smaller, is the universal pre-K provision. It seems like that's still in play, and if it is, that may mean that we have a funding opportunity to bring back our 3-year-old program. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed, and we'll see how it plays out. That's it.
Thank you, David. Mary?
Yes, I just want to say that we have some free newspapers that we get out of the grocery store, also our local newspaper. So sometimes when we're having some events, perhaps a little piece, I don't know where our publicity person is, but a little piece there will get some of the seniors and a lot of the parents whose children don't go to our school, they will see some of the fantastic things that we are doing. Let's use this platform to promote our school and highlight our students. And thank our teachers.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everybody for your time tonight. I definitely appreciate hearing from everybody. I think this has been a rich and rewarding meeting, and we're chugging along. I feel good about what's going on in the district. I think that more and more people will continue to feel what I feel. And so again, thank you everybody, and you guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening and week.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Say that.
Oh yeah. Do I have?
I so move.
Do I have a motion to
so
adjourn?
move. I so move.
Second.
We
I have a
adjourn.
second. Any
Discussion?
discussion?
No. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Okay.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.